All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. This is Jenny and Chris, and we're here this afternoon for the next hour to talk to you a little bit about SharePoint 23, or 2013, excuse me, 23. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through some of the new features on 2013, but mostly focus on business intelligence. Specifically, what types of things help you better run your business within SharePoint? So to get started, we're going to talk a little bit about SharePoint overall if you're considering SharePoint as a platform. So basically, some key things with SharePoint, if you haven't gone to it yet and you're wondering if it's a kind of the platform that you would like for your company, some key things is that a lot of companies are actually using SharePoint now. 78% of all Fortune 500 companies are currently using and have SharePoint. And so basically 1 in every 5 knowledge workers, meaning those people that actually work on computers, and deal with information, has some type of access to SharePoint. So it's a large majority of the work population. And then also every day right now for the past 5 years as well, 20,000 workers have joined the ranks of SharePoint users. So this is definitely a technology that has been embraced by the business world and has been around for a while. So it's a good stable technology to start with. So what we're going to talk about today is SharePoint Business Intelligence, which is a very intricate but very exciting feature about SharePoint. It helps you better analyze your business data as a company. It also integrates with Excel so that you can take, Excel spreadsheets, and we'll show you this today, and how you can integrate them into SharePoint to get charts and interactive data to better analyze how your company is running. You can also automate business processes with workflows in SharePoint. And it also integrates with Outlook, so it makes it a lot easier to analyze your data, especially Outlook components like calendar items and contacts and tasks, all those good things. Also, there's some other SharePoint benefits that help you run your business a little better. First of all, there's quick document retrieval. We'll look a little bit today at document management within SharePoint and how you can find your documents a lot quicker than you used to in the past. Companies are so knowledge-based now, and all of that data in those documents are what drive our company. And if we lost them or if we couldn't find them quickly because we need them, that can really hurt our business. And SharePoint helps you find that stuff quicker, because we now are inundated with so much information. How can we leverage it faster? Also, you get better mobile access. I'll let Chris talk about that a little bit, as well as the HIPAA compliance.
Yes, inside of SharePoint 2013, they really did a bang-up job on increasing their mobile support for Android, iOS devices, and of course Windows devices. You're able to go into your SharePoint farm or your SharePoint site and make adjustments per device. The views will look different for whatever device that you want and for whatever sizes, based off of iPads and other Android devices and tablets. SharePoint is also HIPAA compliant, and this is nothing new in SharePoint 2013, but it's just something that also is brought up quite often. And as you can see below, there's plenty of things that can easily be done inside of a SharePoint farm to make that entire organization, that entire farm, completely compliant for your regulations and your audits. The IT department can easily install a certificate and encrypt that traffic for documents that are going back and forth into your farm. If with a proper disaster recovery plan, no data should be lost. Everything should be backed up and properly recoverable. Make sure that everything is accessible by only authorized users. So you want to make sure that you have proper password policies, proper security, proper governance for your organization, and everything is documented properly. And SharePoint does help with all of that.
Great. So let's take a look at a site. We can talk concept all day long, but it helps if you can actually see it in action. So the first thing we'll look at is how you can actually use Excel data and other information that you might have in your company through business intelligence and SharePoint to better analyze it. And I'll turn that over to Chris.
Yes, in SharePoint 2013, it lets you, with business intelligence, things can be done in a newer and much better way. For business intelligence inside of SharePoint, it's completely about building and managing your solutions, organizing and discovering the data within them as well. And with our BI tools, you have Excel and Visio and other tools, SQL Server analysis services and reporting services. How do we go about exploring that data and mining that data? How can we go and visualize and control or lock down the data to only authorized users. One of the nice things about Excel 2010, which has and Excel 2013, is they have PowerPivot. As you can see right here, I have a blank Excel spreadsheet. And in Excel 2010, PowerPivot is a free downloadable add-in. And in Excel 2013, it comes fully baked in, fully installed, and it just needs to be activated. And what PowerPivot allows you to do is it allows you to connect to multiple data models, maybe in your organization or other spreadsheets or any other piece of software that actually has data in it, and it allows you to connect that to a PowerPivot model, and you're able to crunch millions, tens of millions, and even billions of lines of data. And once data is pulled in through PowerPivot, we can easily explore our data and crunch that data with graphs and charts, tables. We can format that data with different relationships and definitely modify that info for our business requirements. So what you're looking at right here, again, is a blank Excel spreadsheet. And to invoke PowerPivot, all you would have to do is at the very top select that option. And I can go in here and select Manage, and PowerPivot will launch for Excel. And inside of here, we've got not a lot of data because we need to connect to some sort of a data model or data source. And inside of PowerPivot, you'll have the Get External Data button, and you can simply select from Get from a database, from a data source, some sort of a web source. You have existing connections that could possibly be, something that's already connected to your Excel workbook.
And what kind of data, Chris, can we connect to? Are there like certain types of databases?
Yes, and as you can see right here, we've got SQL, we've got SQL Azure, we've got Microsoft Access databases and Oracle. I mean, pretty much almost anything that you could imagine you can connect to. For this example, I'm just going to connect to an internal SQL server we have here. And this form right here is just going to ask you simple information, the server name you want, what type of credentials are required to get to that. And once you're confident that you have everything proper, you should be able to hit a drop down and select the database that you want to connect to. Once you have that and you click Next, you're able to, in the case of SQL importing, you're able to import data based off of a query that's already written on your SQL server, or you can just pull in a list of tables and views, which is what we're going to do. What's great about this is that it pulls in everything over here, and you're able to easily just select checkboxes for whatever table that you're interested in crunching data for, or creating some beautiful reports for.
So that means like in an Access database or just a table of sales, I could just pull up by sales for a certain type of item, or I could look at pricing, or I could look at billing.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. And in this case, everything with databases has to do with relations and relationships. If I select this sales territory, I can right at the bottom select related tables, and all of the tables that are related and have some sort of connection to this database is automatically selected. And in this case, we've got 6 tables that are selected. And once I do that, I can hit Finish, and the data, depending on how much you have, will be imported or cached inside of your Excel workbook. What's nice about this is once you bring this data in and you click Save, then everything is fully contained inside that Excel workbook, meaning that you can do a lot of your reports and charting and graphing offline or on a plane or anywhere else. You don't have to be actually connected to your SharePoint file or to your work infrastructure. Once you get inside of here, you'll see that there's quite a bit of information that we've brought in. You have multiple rows that are from all of those tables, multiple tables, and then the rows or columns inside of there. We can easily, like I said earlier, we can easily bring in more information. We can modify these columns, add columns, do a lot of the things that we are going to be requiring to look at, to crunch our data and to display that properly for our organization. Also at the bottom here, you'll see that there is a diagram button, and in here you get a little bit of a graphical view of what you brought in. And it shows the relationships, and you're able to create new ones, create relationships and hierarchies. Just which is really good stuff that you can do with your data.
So in this case, are we looking at sales data?
In this case, we are looking at sales data. Yes,
okay.
as far as this example, yes, we're definitely going to take a look at some sales data. And you can come over here and you can total columns, and you can create key performance indicators based off of sales that you've got, a lot of information, sorting. So once you're all set and you're comfortable with the way that your data looks, you can come back and create different charts and tables. In this case, I'm going to select and create a chart and table based off of that data, and I can bring it into the same existing worksheet. And over here to the right, we get all of our pivot chart fields, all of the fields that we had just connected to on the back end PowerPivot. And in here, we can bring over some information, say, the sales from last year. And very quickly, with just click of a button, we immediately have some data that we're able to look at. It's very interactive. I can see the total value and everything. I can add even more data. So, anything that has a value, I can easily add and see the comparisons. One of the other nice things that we can do is add slicers. And, slicers will just allow us to, slice our data, crunch it down so we can see exactly what's going on. So if I wanted to just see Australia sales numbers or Canada's or anything, these numbers are changing live. And I didn't have to do any code. I just clicked a few buttons. You can also mess with pivot tables, and I could take some information, say our tax amounts, and I can quickly drop that in. I have a sum of all of our tax amounts, and let's say I also want to grab, let's say we want to grab our country codes, country region codes. We can bring this in as well, and very quickly I've got a breakdown of how much taxes have been paid based off of our different territories.
So you can look at multiple types of data on the same page.
Many types of data, And you can also come over here, and if you're into colors, you can easily do some conditional formatting and change the colors very quickly. Once you have all of this set up, and once you have it all set to how you like, you can save this, and using Excel services inside of SharePoint, display it for any of your other users, or maybe some sort of external customers that has access to this type of data for you. One of the other great things in Excel 2013 and in SharePoint 2013 is PowerView. PowerView is actually built directly into Excel 2013, and this is something we previously had to crunch on the server in SharePoint 2010. But in Excel 2013, PowerView allows you to take the data from a PowerPivot data source and take that workbook, publish it to SharePoint, and then you're able to, once again, create a whole bunch of reports. More bar charts, geospatial, bubble charts that shows how sales or any type of data is reacting over the course of time. What's nice is that users that aren't well versed in business intelligence, maybe somebody that just isn't completely savvy with data models or anything like that, they're able to go onto the SharePoint farm and just simply click a few buttons, and they have beautiful reports. So to import or to create a PowerView report, to start one of these up, you simply go into the Insert tab and select PowerView. And this thing starts up, and we have, once again, our PowerView fields over here to the right. And so this looks a little different, but overall it's pretty much the exact same thing we just looked at. So I can come over here and find, once again, let's grab our sales, and I just check a box, and it will immediately total it and bring it over into our PowerView report. I can extend the size of this. I can create multiple PowerView reports by quickly pressing the plus down here. I can come over here and say I want to bring in the names of our countries again, and it breaks this information down. But these are just tables, and this is kind of boring, to be quite honest. I mean, over here we've got quite a few other beautiful things that Microsoft has built into Excel 2013 for us. So really quickly, I can say I want a stacked chart or a stacked bar, and just like that, I've got a very nice display of what our sales has done. I can add even more information just like I did before, and it'll stack it to the end, and very quickly we've got information that can be used by business analysts. Another nice thing in Excel 2013's PowerView is using maps or geospatial. Maybe you want to actually see the sales from Australia, Canada, etc. on an actual map and let users click that information. So I can put another chart on the exact same report. There's nothing that's stopping me from doing that. And I can take, once again, let's say sales again, and I can easily click this map view, and it will connect with Bing Maps. And once it connects, it brings up a map of the world. And this is completely interactive. Doesn't really give us any information here yet until we add names. And then all of a sudden, it populates quite quickly with information. And I can hover my mouse over and see what the sales were in different regions all across the world.
And no programming required.
As you saw, I did this completely live. There was no programming. And once you're done, once you're completely satisfied with what you've done, again, you can publish this to your SharePoint environment and allow users to crunch this information. You can jump into what Microsoft has, which is called the PowerPivot gallery. And inside this PowerPivot gallery, users with Silverlight are quickly able to go through and click on reports, and they're able to quickly see with Excel services reports that you've created. That's the one we just worked on. And you can, and this works on, as you can see, I'm using Firefox. I deliberately used Firefox to show you that this is supported in many different web browsers. There's another.
Are there any that are more limited than others, or will they all work?
Obviously, this is Microsoft's product. So with that being said, Internet Explorer is 100% supported. The other ones, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, are supported with some compatibility issues, some light limitations. All of these reports are fully interactive. One other thing that you can do whenever you set up all of this, you can create sales dashboards and connect a lot of reports at the exact same time. And with these reports, once again, it's fully interactive, and you're able to zoom in and zoom out.
And you talked about being able to share this with external customers. So is there anything special you'd have to do to give them access?
Yes, IT would definitely need to set this up on the back end as far as credentials and opening up firewall ports, and maybe, if this is an anonymous thing, you can simply open up anonymous access to the internet. A lot of this information, obviously, we want to keep internal, so maybe you have some sort of an extranet. I had mentioned bubble charts. If you have something that's set up where you have multiple charts, you're able to pop this thing out and quickly see information. In this case, we're looking at sales over the course of time. So that's just a little touch of what you can do with some business intelligence inside of SharePoint 2013. When you combine Excel services, performance point services, business connectivity services, visiographic services, and quite a bit of other things, you can create very live, interactive charts and graphs, and things that your users and business analysts can really take advantage of. Something else I wanted to discuss was the new locations and geolocations column that is now new within SharePoint 2013. I get questions all the time about creating maps inside of SharePoint. And as you saw, I just clicked and I created a little list column, and it just shows some different sites within Denver, Sports Authority Field, the Denver Zoo. What's kind of nice, I can hover my mouse over this and get any type of information that I want, and I can quickly view it straight on Bing Maps. Doing something like this is pretty simple. It is a matter of adding an existing column. As you can see, I have a location column, and the type is geolocation. This is a custom column, and something that has to be programmatically created on the back end of your SharePoint client. And once that's in there, any user can take advantage of this, and they can add that column to their list. And once they add that column to their list, based off of any other columns that they've created, they're able to quickly put some information.
So then it can be managed by just individual employees in the company rather than having to be managed by IT when they want to add things to the map?
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. So if I wanted to add another item in this particular case, I can easily click New Item. Let's say we want to look at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And I can pop in their phone number, which I am not aware of.
We'll make one up.
And then what happens right here is we want to give the location. And what's nice about this is it's going to go ahead and use your current location if that's what you want, and it'll look it up based off of IP addresses and other things. Or you can simply specify a location. And what happens is it's asking for latitude and longitude. Quick way of finding this information out is to quickly open up another web browser and just go to Bing Maps, and we can quickly look up the Denver Museum's address. And when you bring that up, it shows the latitude and longitude. You can quickly copy and paste this information straight into SharePoint.
I had no idea they did that in Bing.
And as you see, very, very quickly, a map pops up. I can hit save, and that information is now on our list, and we also are able to see the fictional number for the Denver Museum of Nature and Sites.
Can you add other things in that pop-up box?
You can add a lot of things. This information is pulled off of columns. So whatever types of columns that you put inside of your list, that information is going to show up in here. The other things that it's pretty nice about SharePoint 2013 is sharing sites and following sites and things that a lot of users have wanted to do in 2010 and in earlier versions, but it's been a little cumbersome. What's nice with sharing a site is you can quickly click this button, and you can invite people, email addresses, or somebody within your SharePoint, within your Active Directory environment. You're able to quickly type in their name and quickly share a site. This works externally if IT has set it up properly as well. Using My Sites. A lot of times we log into My Sites, and that's the only place that we're working off of. And your SharePoint environment may have hundreds or thousands of different sites inside of there, and you don't want to actually look at every single little one. You can quickly click follow, and following this site will put it on your sites list inside of your My Site, and it makes it quite easy for you to see what's going on those particular sites that you really want to care about.
Great. So why don't we talk about then pretty fancy stuff. I like being able to map out stuff. I'd never get lost. So why don't we talk then about some other things in SharePoint that can help you with your business. First thing is documents. As I was saying earlier, documents, we are so knowledge intensive. That's usually the baseline of a company and its success is the amount of knowledge it has, but not just the amount of knowledge it has, but how quickly it can access and leverage that knowledge. And the problem is we are so knowledge heavy now in corporate America that often we get overloaded, and it's tough to find things. And the old school file structure gets very cumbersome. So if you think about a document you might have accessed in the past week, think about how many folders you had to click through to get to it. It takes a long time, and the problem is other people may not know how you filed it, and if you're not in the office, they don't know how to access it. So with SharePoint, you can get around that by using what's called metadata and by also using search. So, for example, you'll notice here I have a flat list of documents, and these documents, there's no folders, but they're all tagged with what we call metadata, also known as properties. So, for example, this is sales products, and I have their status, if they're on sale or out of inventory or in stock. I have their price. I have an inventory number. I know what type of cuisine these products can be used in, and I know where they came from. So all of this is my own choosing. So a company can set up for each of their libraries the type of properties that they want to collect around their documents. That way, they don't have to use folders, because now I can find things even quicker. So if I want to find, let's say, all products that are used in Caribbean cuisine but that are marked as on sale, rather than clicking through multiple folders to get to those documents, I can come up here to the columns and I'll say, okay, I want everything with the status of on sale. And I choose it, and it immediately filters my list. And then I can say, all right, I want everything that is only used in Caribbean cuisine, and I can filter that. And now I've gotten down to 4 documents. So you can more quickly get to your specific needed documents by using this, what we call metadata or properties. It lets you ask a lot smarter questions as well. Rather than having to go through multiple folders to find things, you can just use the specific filters you want and get to things quicker. As well, though, searching is super strong in SharePoint, and you can find things very quickly that way. And you can search specific libraries by going to that library and then running a search, or you can search your entire site. That means that you can not only search for content that might be in a document, you can search for content that could be in a discussion board posting or an announcement. So any type of content stored on the site. So for example, if I want to find something with the word Caribbean in it, I just type Caribbean in and I run a search, and then all my results pop up. And you'll notice in SharePoint 2013, one of the great things is now you can hover on these results and you can get more information in a pop-up box. And if it's a web page, it'll actually pop up and show you a thumbnail of that web page.
Yes, that was something in SharePoint 2010 where you had to purchase a separate product called Fast Search. That technology is actually built directly into SharePoint 2013. Fast Search customers of 2010 do not need to worry about purchasing anything for 2013. It just comes baked in.
So nice little new features that I like in 2013. Also, you have here on the left-hand side when you run a search, a way to quickly drill down even more. So I have a lot of results that came back in my Caribbean search. It looks like a couple pages of results, a total of 114 items. So if I want to narrow it down more, I can use over here these categories that appear on the left-hand side. And I can filter more by author or by modified date, or maybe by the type of document. Maybe I'm actually looking for a Word document. So if I just click on Word over here, it now drills down and narrows down my search and only finds documents with the word Caribbean in them. Again, when you do searches, keep in mind that it's not only searching for the title of a document, it's searching for content in the document. Unless, of course, it's something that was scanned in as an image. So if you have a PDF that wasn't created from, for example, Word, it was created with a scanner, if it's not OCR'd, it won't recognize the words in it, but otherwise it will, and it can search all of your content as well as those properties and that metadata that we looked at in that library. Now, searching can get a little bit more intricate if you'd like, and you can be even more specific in your search. You can use what's called the Boolean search operators, and those are and, or not, and some of you might have used those when you're searching, let's say, on Google. So, for example, if I want to find something that has the word Caribbean in it, and the word T, I'm going to type Caribbean, and I'm going to press the space bar, and I'm going to type and in capital letters, and then I'm going to type the word T. So now what it's going to look for is documents that have both the word Caribbean and the word T. And so now I come back with 6 results. Now let's say that I wanted either or. It doesn't have to be both. It could be either or. So instead I'm going to change that and out to a capital or, and I'll press enter here, and now it came back with 272 results. So I have 272 items that have either Caribbean or T, or could have both, but that makes it a lot more expansive. You also have the option to use not. So maybe I'm looking for documents that have the word Caribbean in them, but I don't want the ones that also have the word T. So I want Caribbean, but not T. So now when I press enter, it comes back to me with 98 results. So that is 98 things that have the word Caribbean in them, but exclude the word T. This is great if you're looking for a document, let's say, maybe you're an attorney and you have a few clients named Smith, and you want to find documents that relate to Smith, but you need to narrow down which Smith, and so you could exclude documents. So maybe you want all documents from Smith, but not John Smith. So that's a good example of using not. Other things you can do is you can narrow down your search for the types of documents that you're looking for, like if you're looking for a video, if you're looking for a site, if you're looking for an actual document. And you can do that by using these shortcuts. So for example, we can talk about, let's say I want a document that's called, has the word tea in it, let's say mango tea, and is actually a document. So I'm going to end that with DOC at the end. And by doing that, it's actually going to look for only documents, or word type documents that have mango tea in the title. So that's a great way to narrow down and look for specific things. So again, you can quickly use these keywords for searching. One other thing you can do is use what's called operators. So I can use an equal or a greater than or a less than if I'm looking for something greater or less than a date. Or if I want to only search the title again. So let's say I'm looking for something in the title that is equal to Jumbie coffee. So, oops, that doesn't like my Jumbie coffee. Maybe I have a space in there. I thought I had one in here, but I could be lying. How about passion? I don't have anything with that in. So if I want to search those specifically for title, if I do title equals and I have the specific name, then I'll find it. Let me find the document in here. and I can be a little bit more passion fruit dressing. There we go. So I'm going to type here title equals, and then it's going to be passion fruit dressing. And it might want my capitalization. It's not playing nice with me. But just by using title, then you can enable it to search more specifically for what you want in a title. Or you can do that with author as well. All right, so that's doing searching. So it makes it a lot easier for you to find things. And again, so do the properties. So, we have so much information out there that it's tough to leverage it quickly. And this will allow you to do that. Not only documents, but other information. So another thing I want to show you is working with documents in your email in SharePoint 2013 is easier than it was in any other previous version of SharePoint. So if I go to this document library here, if I want to put one of these documents in an email attachment, in the past it was a little hard. Now you could always send a link. That's easy to do from SharePoint, but that's only for internal customers. So then how would I send a hard copy off to a client? Now it's simple drag and drop. So here I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so that I can get to my Outlook. And I'm going to open up this email, and I already have a document in it, but I'm going to take another document here. I want to take this Jumbie Coffee document, and I'm just going to drag it out of the SharePoint library, stick it in my email, and now it's an attachment. So it's that easy to take things out of SharePoint and put them into an email. As well, you can take documents just from, let's say, your desktop. Let me get to my desktop here. And I'm going to take a document, and I'm going to put it into my SharePoint site. And I can just drag and drop. So let me get all this business intelligence out of the way. And so I'm going to take this test document here. I'm going to drag it, and I'm just going to stick it right on top of the document library. And you'll notice here it just drops right in, and I don't have to do anything special to save it. Now, if I want to force people to put properties on it, I could make those required. So then it would pop up a dialog box and ask me to fill out these required properties that we have here. So I'll show you those. So you could make this required, so then it would pop up and it would ask you to fill out, what kind of cuisine it's in, what the status is, the price, all of that good stuff that we were playing with earlier. But simple drag and drop is all you need. Now, there is one caveat to this. You have to have Microsoft Office 2013 to do that quick drag and drop into SharePoint 2013. You can still drag and drop by opening libraries in Windows Explorer. There's some other ways to use it if you don't have Office 2013. But to use that really quick, easy drag and drop, Office 2013 is the one that will integrate the best with that. So one other thing I'll talk about that I think is a really handy feature if you're trying to manage your business and you're using SharePoint, it's all the things that connect directly into Outlook for you. So if you have a calendar, if you have a task list, if you have a list of contacts, any type of thing that is Outlook content, you can also instead put that on SharePoint. That way it's easier to share with everyone. But it doesn't make it cumbersome to do that because you can take any of that SharePoint content and connect it right into Outlook. Then you have the option of either using it from Outlook or using it from SharePoint. So I'm going to go to this company calendar here. I click on calendar, and then what happens is let me just hit refresh here, and then now you'll see I have a button to connect to Outlook right up here on the ribbon. So I'm in my company calendar. I click connect to Outlook. It's going to ask me 5 times if I'm sure because, it's Microsoft. It wants to be super overly secure. And then it's going to eventually pop up my Outlook, and it should add it underneath my other calendars down here after I say yes 5 more times. And login. And now you'll notice, and you can already, even though we're still logging in here, if you look over in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see it says MCS demo site and the company, and there is my calendar. I'm going to go to month view here, and I actually have an appointment called staff meeting. And if I want to add another appointment, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to schedule happy hour for that Friday. Oops. And let's see what time we want happy hour. Well, let's start early. It's Friday, right?
I say make it an all-day event.
All-day event. I like that, though. All right, so I'm going to save and close this. And I added it directly to my calendar from within Outlook, even though this is you'll see over here, it says MCS demo site. That's SharePoint. That's not my own calendar here. That's my own calendar. This one is a SharePoint one that I just added it to. So now if I hop back into SharePoint to that calendar, and I'll probably have to hit refresh again because it's a website and it's pushing through, Notice that that happy hour appointment, sorry, I only did it at 4 o'clock. I guess we have some work to do. But you'll notice that that happy hour appointment is now listed there, Friday the 21st. So you can do it either way. I can add a calendar appointment directly to SharePoint, and it will show up in my Outlook calendar once I connect them, or I can do it from within SharePoint or from within Outlook and have it show up in my calendar in SharePoint. So it's a nice way to do all of your company kind of public calendars. So it might be a vacation calendar, or it might be all the company holidays or meetings. And so it's a nice way to look at those back and forth. So that's basically the stuff here. Actually, we want to talk a little bit about My Sites, just top level, because it's another handy thing for businesses.
Sure. Microsoft has taken My Sites, and if you've used My Sites before, think of it as your own little Facebook or MySpace when that was in existence, type of social networking, and brings that internal. For those that have heard of Yammer, Microsoft purchased Yammer, and they're integrating a lot of Yammer's social networking features into SharePoint 2013 and beyond. So I can easily, I'm logged on as John Elway, as you can see here, and I can come over here and I can click the About Me, and it brings me over to my newsfeed, which for those that have used Facebook or anything of the like, you can see that it is a very Facebook-like, and you're able to reply to things and like things and add pictures and many other social networking things. The biggest thing about this is, it's a great morale booster for an organization. That's the first thing. But also, as you can see, this can really drive communication and collaboration with many projects and documents you may be working on. Users can come over here and they can create their own separate blogs, and you can have different apps that are popped into your secure little My Site. Also, what's kind of neat about this is Microsoft has built SkyDrive directly into SharePoint 2013. For those that are not aware what SkyDrive is cloud storage. It's similar to Dropbox, which is one of the more popular ones as well. And with SkyDrive, if you're using the Microsoft version of SkyDrive, you're simply able to store a document, and from anywhere in the world, you're essentially able to look at that document. Well, what if you have something a little bit more, you wanted to, as an organization, you wanted to control your documents quite a bit more? Well, with SkyDrive Pro, you are in control of your own cloud storage. So users, once again, can have their own, what they think is cloud storage, and they can access this on mobile devices, and they can also install the SkyDrive Pro application on their desktop, and then it's completely synchronized back and forth with that constantly. As you can see right here, and they can also drag and drop files directly into their My Site library, their document library, very quickly without any problems.
Great. So that's top level, what you can do with the new SharePoint and also business intelligence. So let's talk actually one other feature that is tough to show here on a webinar because you need multiple emails and people involved. But I just want to talk real quickly about workflows because those are huge in managing a company and processes. If you think of anything from just simply, closing out end of month business or doing payroll or asking for a vacation request or submitting expenses, companies are process heavy, and a lot of times what happens is those processes are all done manually and they come to human error. So to help eliminate some of that human error, you can automate processes in your company through SharePoint. And so, for example, this is just a sample workflow. You would basically have a vacation request form that someone could fill out. So an employee fills it out online in SharePoint, and then as soon as they fill out that form, it automatically, without the employee having to do anything else, sends an email directly to their manager alerting them that their employee asked for time off. The manager will get that email, and directly from the email they can open up that form, and then they can approve it or deny it or forward it to someone else or ask them to make changes. They can do all of that right from the SharePoint site from the link within their email. And then once they do that, then let's say you want to have that approval then go to HR so that HR can automatically have it recorded within their log, so they can have it automatically deduct that time off from the employee's time off available from a list without the HR having to do anything. You're just notified, and it happens automatically. And then as soon as it's recorded in HR, the employee gets an email back saying that, yes, you've been approved, and it's been recorded, and enjoy your time off. So you can do a workflow, and that's just a simple one, but you can get as intricate as you want.
And for the IT people on the webinar, workflows in SharePoint 2010 worked right out of the box. There was nothing you had to do. You installed SharePoint and things worked. You could open up SharePoint Designer and create your own workflows. or Visual Studio if that's what you like as well. But in SharePoint 2013, you have to install the Workflow Manager. It does not work directly out of the box.
Right. So let's talk about, if you're really looking at doing a SharePoint installation, we get called in to rescue a lot of sites that are initially just thrown up, and there's always reasons why it can go wrong. So how can you actually ensure your upgrade to SharePoint 2013 or an installation just from the ground up goes well? There's 7 key things that you need to consider and look at where your installations can go wrong. The first place your installation can go wrong is because you don't know SharePoint.
Well, when you're doing an upgrade, there's a lot of things that come into effect. If you have a SharePoint 2007 and you're moving to 2013, one thing to keep in mind is it's simply not supported out of the box. You have to use third-party tools if you're an organization that's looking to do that. According to Microsoft, you need to go from 2007 to 2010, 2010 to 2013. That's one of the big problems that could occur if you're trying to move to 2013. Another thing is, maybe in your current SharePoint environment, you have a lot of custom code or custom master pages. A lot of that stuff can really affect where how your upgrade is going to take effect. You need to do a lot of testing and things like that. If you're just rolling out SharePoint in your organization, I've seen it many times where people click next, finish, and there's quite a bit of other things that needs to happen inside of there.
Great. Another issue that you can have is that you build it in a vacuum.
One other thing, for driving adoption into SharePoint, we always see IT departments that will completely control the entire SharePoint organization, not just the farm. They're controlling libraries and lists and sub-site permissions and things like that. As an IT person, I really want to hand off and delegate as many things as necessary, and our IT organizations that are supporting SharePoint should be doing the same thing. Think of us as somebody who's controlling the structure and the build of a house. We're maintaining all of that information and maintaining the upkeep of our house, and that's our backups of the SharePoint environment. We want to let the users put the furniture in and put paint on the walls and let them design that however they want to design it. The HR department, they should be able to let whoever they want inside their room. IT shouldn't have to do anything like that. If the permissions and everything are set up properly, then it is a very hands-off affair, and we can worry about handling things on the farm and higher level.
So, but one question, I think a lot of IT companies say or divisions say they're concerned about doing that because they're afraid then the users will mess up all of the SharePoint site. So how do we address that concern?
We address that concern with permissions. We address that concern with security and properly setting up security. And there's quite a few different strategies that different SharePoint strategists and architects have for setting up security. And to be quite honest, it is different based off of every project that you do. But with proper security and proper permissions set up throughout your farm or your sites, you shouldn't have that issue at all.
Right, and I think also, a SharePoint site's got to be built with the end user in mind, and just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come and use it. And we find that often. If it's more complicated or takes longer to use and figure out, users are actually going to resent the site, and they'll end up bypassing it altogether and go back to those old methods, or they'll create these often very creative workarounds which don't always work or are more time-consuming. And so when you build a site, those best practices have to be in mind. For example, like getting to users to their content in 3 clicks or less, or doing what's called keeping the important things above the fold so that they don't miss them. Another area I think where installations go wrong is that people thought training was optional when you're going to do a SharePoint site. I think one of the biggest failures of SharePoint implementations that we see is not providing training. Training has to be mandatory to drive adoption in your organization. And training goes further than just making sure employees know how to use it. It helps with your overall change management and how they adopt the new platform. So if you want to make sure that they're going to really want to embrace this and use it, training will help do that. And then you also, without it, you're going to, ensure that they're always struggling, and it's going to be tough to have a successful company-wide rollout. So another place where installations go wrong is that there is no change management planning, and obviously training is a part of that. But overall, people do hate change, and if you're the one who brings SharePoint to the organization, you're already the bad guy. Even if you're just upgrading from SharePoint 2010 to 2013, employees are going to feel like you've added more work on them to learn how to work in the new interface, and they won't see the advantages of the upgrade. They'll actually see it as another thing that the IT department's pushed on them, even if it is easy, so they have to see that first and know that it is going to be less painful than their preconceived notions are going in. So things that you want to do is get employees involved in the change before it happens, to get them to embrace it and be champions for the company. Show them new preview features before you even go live to get them excited about it. And keep them informed with ongoing progress and any kind of completion dates or other little tidbits to get them excited.
I'd also recommend a feedback form or something like that as well, so users can submit different suggestions and features that they're looking for inside of SharePoint. As IT people, we don't actually see what's going on inside of that form. We're not using it like all of the other users are on a day-to-day basis, and getting that feedback back in could be very, very valuable.
Very good point.
And as you can see right here, ignoring making a new architecture, one of the other things with implementing SharePoint, you're bringing in a new installation. You want to make sure your foundation is completely set. If you're trying to bring in SharePoint for a large organization, but you have slower switches, 10100 switches, for example, or older hardware or anything like that, you're going to have issues. Things aren't just going to automatically move super fast or move great. If you're upgrading from SharePoint 2007 or SharePoint 2010, and you're having many issues on that farm already, a lot of the times you're just going to bring that junk in with you. You need to make sure that everything is completely dialed out and completely scoped properly.
Great. So another instance where things can go wrong, actually the last one, is there's no governance and planning. And governance and planning sounds like this, huge undertaking, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be overdone or difficult. You just basically want some planning and basic governance to ensure that your site grows the way you want it to. So this would be basic guidance for your migration, as well as how the end users will use it. Maybe what are the different permissions and who can edit what. You want that laid out and planned on. What types of data can and should be stored in SharePoint? You want everything, or are there certain things you want to limit it to? Are there certain naming conventions you want to be used? And how are versions going to be used? Or is there going to be an archive plan? Those are just to name a few things you want in your governance and your planning. So basically, if you're going to be looking at going into SharePoint or even just upgrading from 10 to 13, there are 4 key components of a successful installation. There's design, which covers the governance, the planning, the architecture, and the user interface. There's branding, which means your corporate image and how the site looks, as well as governance. Training, so that helps with your change management, and so you want to train end users as well as power users, who might be those that are going to design and edit and maintain those sites. And lastly, you need the IT administration for the server and security and backup and the integrations. So that's all the key things that we could talk about top level. But let me just run through a few things that MCS has that we can help you with if you are looking for some assistance in your new sites, and then we're going to open it up for some questions for everybody. Basically, some things that we can offer you if you're looking to go to SharePoint is we can help with server installs, we can help with the architecture, the training, the consulting, the branding, or anything else you need for the overall end user experience and to help push that adoption. So any of those components we do, and they can be done together or they can be done separate. Every client has different needs of where they're needing some assistance in SharePoint. We also have lots of different SharePoint classes, so if you just want to get your individual employees trained on how to maintain and edit and build their site, we have an end user SharePoint level 1 and 2 class. And if you want to go a little bit further, we also do designer classes. We have level 1, 2, and workflows, and this helps you build things behind the scenes, everything from that branding and how your site's going to look and feel to all of those workflows we talked about. So there's some really cool, intricate workflows you can do behind the scenes. And then also, if you want to set up your own SharePoint IT servers, but you want to know all the best practices, because unfortunately, you can't just install the SharePoint default out of the box. It will not work right for you. So we also have classes on that. Just to give you a quick overview here, here's all the upcoming classes through the middle of August. But if you go to our website, mcstech.net, you can see all the other public classes throughout the end of the year. Or if you just want a private class on site, we can do that as well. And then one other thing that we find a lot is that there's SharePoint adoption issues. People build their sites, they throw it up there, and then unfortunately no one comes to it. So, the employees are resistant to it, they use their old methods, and it's just a site that sits there. So we can also help make sure that that site gets used, that it's built more intuitively, that people are in your company are embracing that technology rather than it not getting used, because it is such a great Great thing. So let's open it up to questions if anybody has any. We're not going to turn on the audio because we have so many people here on the call. It will kind of get bogged down. So instead, there is a question panel that you'll see on your kind of interface to get through the webinar. And so you can type in a question there and then we'll see it. So the first question here is from Joseph. It says, we currently have SharePoint 2012 that's installed in our local server because you got the Small Business Office 365 and 2013 subscription from Microsoft. Where would our SharePoint site be hosted?
Rereading that question, we currently have a SharePoint 2012 that's installed on our local server. If we have a Small Business Office 365 and 2013 subscription from Microsoft, where would our SharePoint? Okay, first of all, I'm a little confused from the beginning of it because we don't.
It's not a SharePoint 2012.
Yeah, there's SharePoint 2012. So I'm assuming if you have Small Business Server, that Small Business Server comes with, the last version of it came with SharePoint 2010. As far as where it would be hosted, I'm not sure if you're asking where your site is actually hosted. I'd have to look at that to see. But if you do have Office 365, Office 365 is a great product from Microsoft, and they have recently pushed out SharePoint 2013 for it. It is a great solution. It's a great tool, and if you have SharePoint 2010 on your local server and you don't have anybody in your organization that is well-versed in supporting SharePoint 2010, I highly recommend using the 2013 Office 365 subscription that you're paying for.
Great. Another question is if we have a page set up on SharePoint, only want to search that page or items linked on that page and not search everything else, can we? Well, one of the definitions comes to what's the difference between a site and a page. So if you're talking about a sub-site, yes, you can go down to just that specific sub-site and then run the search from there. And that will only search that sub-site. If it's a page really just lives on a site and it shares content with that site. So you can't search an individual page because it's really sharing with the parent site. But you can search just one sub-site by going to that. And does this work with PDF documents?
Well,
yes, I'll let Chris talk about that.
Yeah, in SharePoint 2010, you had to create, and I'm assuming you say, does this work with PDF documents, meaning can you open PDF documents directly inside of the web browser and things like that? I mean, that all depends on the workstation that you're coming in off of. That depends on if you have a PDF reader enabled on your workstation. But as far as the support for PDF documents in SharePoint, in 2010 you had to build in support for searching those. In 2013, it's already in out of the box.
Great. Another question that came through is, can we share this presentation with you? Yes, it's actually being recorded, and then we'll make sure that we get the links out to everybody if you'd like to have it. So let's see. Another one, signed up for a SharePoint course, but your company uses 2010. Will the course still be applicable to 2010? If you signed up for a 2013 class, the interface is totally different between 2013 and 2010. Not that you won't be able to use some stuff across those two. So for example, it has a lot of the same kind of components like libraries and calendars, but the navigation is very different. So you'll have to learn to adjust between those two interfaces. And let's see, will SharePoint 2013 integrate with Lotus Notes?
Well, you could configure email to work with SharePoint 2010 through Lotus. I don't know the answer to that question. I can grab your email address, but I'm not positive about that because obviously most people use Exchange servers, but I will find that out for you.
Great. With Win8 being a problem, do you recommend going to Office 13 or is Office 10 okay? Office 13 it just has a couple of those cool features like drag and drop. Chris uses Office 13, so he gets those. I still use Office 10 in SharePoint 2013, so I can work fine with it. I just don't get some of those little cool things that I want.
And in addition to that, what a lot of people need to remember is that SharePoint is Microsoft's Office server. So they've built SharePoint 2013 to work with Office 2013, just like SharePoint 2010 is built to work with Office 2010. It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be able to do anything. It's just going to have a few of those little items that you won't be able to do if you're still in Office 2010.
Great. And then we have, which version of SQL do you need to run SharePoint BI?
For SQL 2012, which is the best one to run it with SharePoint 2013, you need to have at least the business intelligence version or higher.
Great. Let's see, can you search for PDF documents? Yes, you can if the PDF documents were created like directly from Word or if they were OCR'd. If they're scanned and they think that it's a picture, then you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and I'll take that a step further. Out of the box, SharePoint does not support searching text inside of your PDF. You would have to use a third party, so yes, you would be able to search directly inside of those PDF documents. TIFF documents, yes, you can search. It's automatically OCR. That works properly. And then the third part of that is out of the box for SharePoint 2013, searching for PDFs work. If you're still on SharePoint 2010, there's a little bit of back-end configuration that IT would have to do, installing an iFilter and a couple of other things. But yes, they can make that work as well.
Great. Do you have to have SharePoint Designer to create the workflow discussed earlier? Yes. Because that workflow is it would actually go in and tie into other lists to deduct information. You would need to have Designer to do that workflow.
Yes, and
it's free.
Yes, and with the workflows, there's really a few tools that you have to worry about with creating those, and one of them is SharePoint Designer, and then if you want to get a little bit more detailed, there's Visual Studio. And just a very brief blurb for you, there's really only two types of workflows, a state and sequential. So if you're going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, you can easily do that in SharePoint Designer without any problems. If you're doing from step 1 to step 2 and maybe have to go back to step 1, well, you need a custom program back inside of Visual Studio.
Great. Does Microsoft 365 have the full version of SharePoint 2013 with all the features?
It sure does.
So Enterprise.
Absolutely. It's an excellent product. I highly recommend it. If you already have an Office 365 subscription you're paying for, I think you would absolutely love it.
Fantastic. Let's see. I think that's all the questions we have. Please feel free. We'll stay on the phone a couple more minutes if you want to post any more questions. Just so you know, there's our contact information. I put up Stephen Nichols. He's here in the office and able to answer any questions if you want. Or if you'd even just like to schedule a free demo at your site to kind of talk through some of the features in SharePoint and what might work specifically more closely to your company, we're happy to do that as well.
And back to the question about Lotus Notes, I just did a quick glance. I would have to do quite a bit more research on this as I have not integrated Lotus with SharePoint. But it is supported, yes. Lotus Notes, there is a Lotus Notes connector for SharePoint 2013.
Great. I have another question here. Can users access and interact with Excel services charts without being able to edit or view the raw data?
Absolutely, and that's what's great about Excel services. You create your PowerPivots and data models and put that right into your Excel spreadsheet, and then you would upload that into SharePoint, and it's all on the back end. And a lot of the times the users, depending on your report builders, a lot of times don't even understand that stuff. So that is all hidden from them. You can expose that, yes, but a lot of the times we'll just publish the Power View and let them create their own reports.
And then you can have even interactive stuff that you want to share with clients, like you were talking about external users, so they can click and animate the charts and do some filters as well, right?
And yes, and with that stuff as well. I didn't even show everything that you could really do. Obviously, you can have it auto refresh. So if you have a big schedule that you want to display in front of you in your lobby on a massive television or something, you can do that, and on the back end, it's piping data in and automatically refreshing that. There's a lot of things you can do.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about access services with SharePoint?
Well, access services is supported. It's something else where if you have an access database, once again, you can interact with that directly within a web page inside of SharePoint. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to that as well. It works very, very nicely, though.
Because they're both based on SQL, and actually SharePoint is basically like a glorified access database.
Yeah.
So to put it succinctly, right? All right, I think that's all the questions we have. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. And again, if you have any more questions or even wanted to set up a demo, please feel free to contact us. We're happy to answer questions and help out any way we can. And good luck with SharePoint 2013.
Thank you.